Imagine this. You're an ambitious young woman looking for a fresh start. You've been offered a high-paying nanny job in one of the wealthiest homes in the city. You pull up to this grand mansion with high hopes, ready to step into a life that's as luxurious as the marble floors and grand chandeliers in front of you. But what you don't know is that this job will uncover a shocking secret that will change everything you thought you knew about your past. Our story begins with Sarah, a young woman who, after years of struggling with low-paying jobs, finally lands a position as a nanny for the Devereux family, one of the most well-known and prestigious families in the city. The Devereux mansion stands at the end of a long gated driveway, nestled in an area where the homes are not just large, but borderline palatial. As Sarah arrives at the gates, she can't help but feel a mixture of awe and nervous excitement. This is the opportunity she's been waiting for, a fresh start, a chance to escape the difficult life she's had. But what she doesn't realize is that this new chapter will bring with it more questions than answers. As Sarah rings the bell at the entrance, she's greeted by Mrs. Lillian Devereux, the family matriarch. Lillian is everything Sarah imagined: elegant, poised, with a smile that seems to radiate wealth. She ushers Sarah inside, where the grandeur of the mansion is even more overwhelming than she expected. The high ceilings, the intricate woodwork, and the sprawling staircase give off an air of old-world elegance. Lillian takes Sarah on a quick tour of the mansion, showcasing the luxurious rooms, the garden, and the amenities she'll have access to. It all feels surreal to Sarah, like a dream she might wake up from at any moment. She's been told she will have her own quarters upstairs, and as she follows Lillian through the halls, everything feels like it's happening too fast. But she pushes the feeling aside, focusing on the excitement of starting something new. Finally, Lillian shows her to the room where she'll be staying. It's beautiful, yet cozy, a far cry from the tiny, cramped apartment Sarah has been used to. As she sets her suitcase down and begins to unpack, she notices a photograph hanging on the wall across the room. It's an old photo, slightly faded, of a woman and a young girl, sitting at a table, smiling and laughing. They look incredibly happy, almost like they're sharing a private joke. But what strikes Sarah is the woman in the photograph. She looks so familiar, she could swear she's seen her before. The woman in the picture has dark hair, a soft smile, and eyes that seem to have a depth to them that draws Sarah in. For a moment, Sarah feels a chill run through her body. It couldn't be, could it? Could this woman really be who she thought it was? No, that couldn't be possible. But as she steps closer to get a better look, her heart skips a beat. That woman in the picture, her mother. Sarah stares at the photograph, completely frozen. Her mind begins to race. How could it be? Why would her mother be in a picture at the Devereux mansion? Sarah had grown up without much information about her mother's past, only knowing that her mom had disappeared from her life when she was very young. No explanations, no answers. Just one day, her mother was gone, leaving Sarah with unanswered questions and a hole in her heart. Confused and shaken, Sarah looks at Mrs. Devereux, who's still standing at the door, watching her with a curious expression. "Is something wrong, Sarah?" Lillian asks, her tone soft but tinged with concern. Sarah's voice shakes as she speaks, barely able to get the words out. I think I recognize her. This woman in the photo. She's my mother." Mrs. Devereux's smile falters for a split second. Sarah doesn't miss the slight change in her demeanor, but before she can ask anything further, Lillian quickly recovers, her composure back in place. "Ah," she says, her voice smooth, almost rehearsed. "That's an old picture. It's from a long time ago, Sarah. I didn't realize it was still hanging there." Sarah's heart beats faster. The casual way Lillian dismisses the moment only adds to her suspicions. But before she can ask more questions, Lillian steps in, gently guiding her away from the photo. "Let's not worry about the past right now. You're here to focus on the children, and I'm sure they're eager to meet you." But the seed of curiosity has already been planted in Sarah's mind. She can't stop thinking about the picture. Why was her mother in a photo with the Devereux family? Had they known each other? And why did Lillian react so strangely when Sarah mentioned it? There's a story here, one that Sarah has to uncover. Over the next few days, Sarah does her best to stay focused on her duties as a nanny. Emily, the Devereux daughter, and Timmy, her younger brother, keep her busy with homework, playtime, and their various activities. But in the back of her mind, Sarah is consumed by questions about her mother's connection to this family. It doesn't take long before Sarah begins to notice more oddities, small, subtle things that don't quite add up. She overhears hushed conversations between Lillian and her husband, the family patriarch, discussing matters that seem far too personal for a nanny to overhear. There are strange looks exchanged between the family members whenever Sarah's mother is mentioned, or when Sarah asks about her past. One evening, after the children have gone to bed, Sarah makes a decision. She can't just let this go. She has to know the truth. She waits until Lillian is in her study, working late on something, and then Sarah quietly makes her way to the family's library. She knows that Lillian is meticulous about keeping records, old photographs, and letters in there. If there's any chance of finding out more about her mother's past, it would be here. As she browses through old books and files, Sarah stumbles upon a dusty box tucked away at the back of a shelf. The box is old, much like the photograph she saw earlier, and it seems to be filled with personal items. Heart racing, Sarah opens it. Inside are letters, more photographs, and what appears to be a diary that belonged to her mother. Flipping through the pages, Sarah finds entries that describe the friendship between her mother and the Devereux family. The entries are filled with joy, laughter, and shared memories. But there's something darker hidden between the lines, mentions of secrets, of things that Sarah's mother had kept hidden. The further Sarah reads, the more she starts to realize that her mother's life wasn't as simple as she had always imagined. Her mother had been deeply involved with the Devereux family in ways Sarah could never have guessed, and there was something that had torn them apart. As Sarah reads deeper into the diary, she uncovers a shocking truth. Her mother had left the Devereux family because of a betrayal. A betrayal that involved love, greed, and a secret that had been buried for years. Sarah's mother had been more than just a figure in the background of the Devereux family's life. She had been a part of something much larger, something that was kept from Sarah all these years. The more Sarah learns, the more she begins to understand the truth about her own family, and the more she realizes that her arrival at the Devereux mansion might not have been by chance after all. It seems as though fate has led her here for a reason, to uncover the truth about her mother's mysterious past, and to finally get the answers she's been searching for her whole life.